to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who usually do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. But right now we're on
Indiemission.
And we are covering the second two novellas of Before the Shattered Gates of Heaven by Bryan S. Glosemeyer, who gave me the nicest compliment when we interviewed him, which is coming out next week, where he was like, Hannah, you pronounced my last name perfectly. And I was like, thank you. I love it when I do that.
And that's why we had you say it, Hannah, because I would famously butcher that last name. Or any name. I might not have even said Bryan right.
Bryan.
Bryan? Is that how?
Bryan. Yes, that's how you say your name. But
I am the worst.
But Laura, before we get into this wonderful second half of this volume, will you tell us something you're reading, watching, and or enjoying?
Okay, yes, I will, Hannah, because I read Jade Shards by Fonda Lee. Is this the one that you listened to?
That's the one I haven't read. I read
we
the
read
Jade Setter.
Opposites.
Yes, we did Opposites.
This one is like a collection of 4 short stories, and we get another glimpse into Hilo and Wen's relationship, which that was my favorite chapter out of the ones that we get. And then we get like young Shay, who is in love with Gerald, and I'm like, Gerald, go away. We don't want Gerald
here. Oh my goodness.
No, Gerald. And then we get like young Aitmata, which is interesting too.
Oh, that's nice.
But I also really just appreciated like the little notes that Fonda Lee had incorporated at the end of each of the short stories, and it made me feel good that she was like not just doing this as like fan service, but she was like, people really wanted me to write more, but also I really wanted to revisit these characters, so this is the result. And that just made me happy that she cares so much about the characters and her work that she wants to revisit them and that she enjoys them so much. But it was a really good audiobook. I really like the narrator. So I would definitely suggest that to you, Hannah, if you
I need to read it.
Especially because you read Jade Setter of John.
Yeah, exactly.
Sloane. I think that would be perfect.
I need to hit all of those things. Okay, well, that's exciting.
I've also been reading a manga series, Komi Can't Communicate. And this is like I don't know if it's YA necessarily, or I guess it's more like YA, because there are some themes that I'm like, maybe not quite high schoolers, but it follows a young girl who is in high school that has a communication issue, a communication disorder. She just has like severe social anxiety is what it comes down to, and she finds it really difficult to talk to those around her. So most of the time she communicates like just writing on pads and stuff like that. And it's adorable because she wants so badly to have friends, but she doesn't know how to reach out to people, and people are incredibly intimidated by her because she's gorgeous.
Of course.
And because this is a manga, of course it's like over the top about it, where people are like, what? She is a queen. Don't ever address her. How dare you go talk to her? Don't look her in the eye. You're not deserving. Like that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, that's maybe too much. But if you dial that back a little bit, it's a very cute YA series. And I've been kind of consuming these issues or these volumes like chips. And I wouldn't say they're like 5 stars by any means, but they're enjoyable for me, and I just think the relationships between the friends are really sweet. And every time they kind of switch it up and we get a new friend involved, I'm like, oh, I'm so excited that Komi's gonna be working towards having 100 friends. It's adorable because that's her goal, is to make 100 friends.
Nice.
I know, it's so cute. I really think that part of it is cute, but then, like I said, there is some over sexualization of a young woman who is in high school. Like there was one scene where it was like, they're going to the pool because it's summertime, and then they're like, let's rate everyone based on how they look in their swimsuits. Wait a minute, that's not right. Let's not do that.
Let's not do that, actually. Let's just specifically not.
Let's not be doing that.
Yeah, I hate that, but I get it. I mean,
but again,
you only expect so much.
this is a manga series, and I feel
Mhm.
like there is definitely a lot of like over sexualization that occurs, and also like extreme emotions. Like I said,
Right.
the people reacting to Komi where they're like, "How dare you look at her? She is a queen. You are a dog to her." And like, okay, that's too much. She's a person.
She doesn't think that either.
Right? Like she does not care. But yeah, it's a cute series, and I'll probably continue on with it because apparently it's really popular at my library that they have
Oh,
a million volumes of it, and
wow.
that's how it's like easiest for me to get all these mangas is just through the library
Mm.
because I cannot afford to buy all of them. They're
Oh
so
no.
expensive.
Yeah, no, no,
Oh,
no, no, no. I don't. Yeah, I think that that makes sense.
actually, listeners, if you know of a way to get mangas cheaply, let me know. I've been
Mm.
looking into getting like a library card out of state that you can get like an e-card and have access to like Comics Plus, I think is what it is.
Oh, okay.
And I think that might be my best option to just buy
Mm.
another library card. And I'm okay with that. But if there is another option that is more affordable, I'm very open to it. So please let me
Right.
know because I've been wanting to get into some of these, and a lot of them have like long waits and you can't read them because like One Piece,
Mm.
I'm never going to be able to read that through my library because it is so long of a wait list.
Okay.
But
Wow, that's crazy.
well, it's because of the TV show that came out. So,
Mm.
and that's the reason that I was going to read it too, because like, oh, I'll read it before the TV show comes out. Well, me and 4,000 other people in Illinois had that idea. Oh,
Fair enough.
whoops. Whoops.
Whoops-a-daisy.
But Hannah, the other thing that I've been enjoying has been Delicious in Dungeon on
Oh,
Netflix.
I don't know what that is.
It's an anime and it's
Okay.
the cutest show ever. I
Oh,
absolutely adore it. It follows, it's kind of like a D&D crew that they have been traveling down into this dungeon, which these dungeons are like layered, and each layer there's different monsters that you
okay.
encounter. And this group sets off on a mission and they get down to a certain layer and there's a red dragon that attacks them. And
Mm.
one of their members is eaten by the red dragon. And so they all kind of flee and disperse. And the woman that was eaten by the red dragon, her brother decides that he's going to get a gang back together and they're going to go back down there and save her
Okay.
because it takes dragons a while to digest their food.
Mm.
It's a fantasy
Interesting.
show.
I mean, hey, that
It takes
love
me a while
fantasy.
as well to digest my food. But and I guess with like snakes and stuff, reptiles do digest really slowly. So
Yeah.
fair enough. But it's a really cute story because they get hungry. There's like actually like a lack of food for these people, and so they're
Oh.
getting hungry and they figure out that they can eat certain monsters that are in the dungeon. And so
Hmm.
they're not only battling monsters, but they're tasting a lot of different cuisine. And so that's why it's
Interesting.
called Delicious in Dungeon because they're eating like living armor and dragons and all sorts of different things. And it's super adorable. I absolutely love it. There's a character named Senshi who's a dwarf, and he is my favorite. He's so cute and I just adore him. But this is
Good.
such a fun show and I really just want to binge it so bad, but all the episodes come out on Thursday, so I've just been watching like one episode at a time and it's grueling to wait for the next one.
You're like, I just need more.
I need all of it. No. That's similar to how they react to
Oh, good.
some things.
Good to
Because
hear.
there's times where they'll have a reaction to something, which cracks me up in anime. I love those type of reactions where there's a certain monster they encounter in Delicious in Dungeon, and one of them will not be on board with eating, and they'll be like, "What? Gross!" And they'll just scream gross, and it's like, okay, you could have
Calm
just said,
down.
"I'm not eating that," but okay.
You could have just said no.
And at first it was like annoying to me that there's like these extreme reactions, but then it started to become endearing. And I was like, okay, I find this so cute that, that they react this way to things.
I
I
like that it comes all the way around where you're like, all right, I'm back on. Like, I get
yes,
it.
it's really, really cute. But I don't know. I kind of would almost want to cover it for one of our TV Tuesdays because I just think it's
Mm,
adorable.
good to
Also, there's a character
know.
named Marcel that she's probably my second favorite character, and she's a ton of fun. And I just need to have like the Funko Pops of these characters because I love them so much. They're the best.
Laura's really just doing
Hannah,
a deep
I'm
into
done.
her, like you're just doing a deep dive into your manga era where you're just like, no, no,
Yeah,
I'm all in. I'm all in, actually, just
well,
so you guys know.
I'm saving another manga to talk about next week that I'm obsessed with.
Oh,
And
good
the
to
characters
know.
in that, like, they're my new BFFs. I
Oh.
absolutely love them, but I will save that for next week. But Hannah, what have you been reading and watching?
So for reading, I read Cult Classic by Sloane Crosley. This is a pretty short book. It's under 300 pages, and it's a weird lit fic that goes into some of the things you and I discussed last week, where it's like, is this a thriller? Where they're like, this is like a metaphysical mystery, and I'm like, is it? So it is a weird. I would say it's kind of more sci-fi esque, in some of its ways, but it's about this
Do you
woman
think it's
who.
almost horror? Because I feel like sci-fi and horror like really toe the line with each other.
No, it's more sci-fi mystery type stuff because it's hard to explain, but it's about this um woman Lola who like goes to Chinatown and she runs into an ex-boyfriend, and then it keeps happening. And then she finds out um that this is all due to some of the machinations of or people around her who are just like trying to make her run into all of her boyfriends, kind of like a walk through the past that's being forced upon her. And so it's a little bit weird where it feels sci-fi because they're like, oh, we're doing it with like metaphysical energies and this and that. So it's like light sci-fi because there's no actual scientific, proof that this happens, but it is still that weird mumbo jumbo stuff. And I really liked it. I thought it was really interesting to kind of see her walk down the path. It's kind of like her deciding how she's going to like continue with an engagement because it's someone who she's not like fully on board with, but she does love him, and she's having this weird thing. And then in the end, it takes a wild turn where I was like, well, it was never about this. Why are we talking about it? And because like one of the characters becomes more important in a way that I was like, I didn't care about him. Why am I reading about him now? So overall, I really liked it up until the end, and then the end kind of lost it for me. And I think it's gotten mixed reviews on Goodreads. I mean, not like bad reviews. It's not like under 3 stars, but for one that has as many, because I've seen it around quite a bit, and it's only at 3.3 stars with like 18,000 reviews, which is pretty low for a book that's widely read. In my opinion. And I think that that's not quite like, I don't think it's a bad book, but I don't think it's like a stellar book. So I gave it 4 stars because I think people are probably a little bit too harsh on it. But
Can I just ask if it's something where there's like a reveal in it that is polarizing to people? Because I feel like often there are books that are like polarizing to people, like Earthlings. I feel like maybe deserves a higher Goodreads score than it gets, just because people read it and they're like, I'm disturbed by the content. But at the same time, it's still a good book. And maybe just because you're disturbed by the content doesn't take away from the fact that it's a good book. You know what
I
I
don't,
mean?
yeah, I don't know if it's that, but it does take a wild turn towards the end. Like there's just something unexpected that happens that kind of comes out of left field. And I think some people are left being like, why did we care about this? What's going on? And I definitely felt that towards the end, but not enough to like lower. I mean, it was almost enough to lower my rating until I saw how low other people were rating it. And I was like, well, I don't think it deserves like hate by any means, but like it's a weird book that I still feel divided about it. And even when I was looking, I was like, I rated it that high. So it's one where you go back and forth on, I feel, and I feel like no one quite knows where to put it. So um, that one was a little bit strange. And then on the completely other side, I listened to If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. It's a meant to be series. I'm excited for the meant to be series. I didn't realize what it was until I started reading this book. But the meant to be series is written by different authors. And they're all different romance books that are like rewrites of fairy tales.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah. So
I
uh
love fairy tale retellings.
Exactly. And I like that it's like different authors and it's a lot of people who do different types of work. So Julie Murphy wrote Dumplin', and she wrote some other some other like fat romance books. She also wrote Faith Taking Flight, which is about a plus size superhero. So she writes specifically about plus size characters. But then we also have like Jasmine Guillory, who writes like she's a Black woman who writes mostly like Black female protagonists. And then, so it's usually just a little bit different. And Christina Lauren actually wrote one of them. So just so you know.
Christina Lauren is one of my faves.
I know.
They are
And
one of my faves. It's a duo.
yeah, it's a duo. But so it's just I love the essence of that series because I think it's super interesting that they just bounce around and it's not just one author's telling. But I listened to If the Shoe Fits. It's about a young girl who is returning home after graduating college. She has a little bit of like delayed grief after losing her dad 3 years ago, and her stepmother is a reality television like producer, and she ends up joining the reality television cast, and she meets a man that she very much likes, and she is the first plus size person to be on a dating reality show. I have read other books where it's a plus size person on a dating reality show. This one is a little bit more lighthearted than the last one I read. um and it's definitely like going for the Dumplin'-esque version of things, where Dumplin' was a movie and a book about a girl who did pageant stuff. So Julie Murphy tends to write, plus size women who want to be fashionable, who live in a very realistic world where the world is not always meant for them. So there are a lot of faux pas that happen in this book that would happen to someone who is on a reality show like that.
Are there Dolly Parton mentions? Because the movie Dumplin' has so
No.
much Dolly Parton, and I love it.
No, there aren't, but there are plenty of other like I do like these books because I think it shows I think she tends to like writing characters who are different, and like they all have their own personalities, but they all like love things or dislike things, and it's all very genuine. And obviously that's many characters, but I think like a lot of people brush certain types of characters with the same brush, and I think Julie Murphy takes her time to make sure that they're all different. So like Cindy, because it's a Cinderella retelling, shocking, loves shoes. She's a fashion designer. She's really into fashion. She likes reality television. And I think a lot of books that we read in romance novels, they're usually like, oh, I'm so busy, I have no time for that. But Cindy's like, no, I have all the time in the world for that. And also I like cooking food, and I like making grilled cheese sandwiches, and I'm not on a diet, like
Honestly, I kind of appreciate when characters get to have a hobby outside of just like what's happening in the plot.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like a real world
Mhm.
setting, like a mystery or any kind of like, or a romance, especially.
Yeah.
Where it's like they would not always be looking for this person who was killed. Like
Right.
they have to have a life.
Yeah, exactly. And so I really do appreciate this. I think it's really cute. I would say like the one thing is like certain things. I'm an adult woman reading about a 23-year-old finding love. I'm always like, are you actually in love, or is this a red flag?
But
'Cause
they're in love.
but they're in love, and sometimes it's like a little bit too fast for love, where I'm like, you guys are fine. Like, it's fine. But I thought it was very
honestly,
cute.
I can't comment.
That's fair.
I got married at 24, it worked out. So
that's very fair. But it's just like some of that is a little bit silly to me sometimes when I'm reading it.
absolutely.
But it was a nice escapist. I really liked the modern retelling and like the classic spin on it. And overall great book. So I highly recommend. It was a really cute audiobook as well. So I was a little bit scared that like I will give a small spoiler because it bummed me out, where I was like, is the stepmother going to be evil? And she's not. She's fine. And I was like, okay, good. Because it's weird. It's weird reading modern retellings of like evil stepmothers, but it's like, no, this is just like a negligent parent at this point.
I also feel like we need to normalize like families look different, and
yes,
not all, because I feel like there's a stigma associated with step parents or foster parents or adoptive parents, that it's like they're terrible, and it's like, well, you can have a great stepmom.
Yeah. And like their relationship isn't super close, but they're fine.
Yeah.
And I liked it and I appreciated that in it. So and there's certain moments like she hires Cindy to like come back and like work as like a nanny for like the kids, and someone points out like, hey, it's just because you won't let her give you money. Like, and she's like, oh, I know, but like it was what we did. And I'm like, that's a complicated family relationship. And I appreciate like pointing out that sometimes step parents may want to step in, but in a respectful way. So they may
Right.
do
That
it in a
it's that
different
they're still not the parent.
right. And there seems to be that
They're an adult
appreciation.
figure.
So
Yeah. I like that too.
um but and then for watching, this happened a couple weeks ago, but I did watch the Anyone But You movie
Oh,
with
yes, with Glenn Powell.
and Sydney Sweeney. I almost
Howdy,
said
howdy.
Sydney Powell. He is so gorgeous, but like
He's
okay.
very hot. Like
So,
I, yeah,
okay,
I am
but
interested.
also, I will tell you the funniest thing where for the longest time, anytime I saw Glenn Powell's face, I
Mhm.
immediately forgot what it looked like. Like I would look away and I'd be like,
I
no
didn't
memory of
realize
that
that he was
man.
in so many things. Like I saw him in an interview promoting Anyone But You, and he was like the person that was interviewing him was like, "Oh, you've been in this or that," and I was like, "He was? Wow, I
Uh,
totally blanked on that."
yeah, I mean, he's a good looking man, but also I forget his face all the time. I always confused him for another white man
Mhm.
who's in a lot of movies, but I couldn't tell you who that was because, again, I cannot remember their faces. So,
He's
I
very much like got that same face that several attractive men do, where it's like you have light colored eyes and that weird colored hair. You know what I mean? It's
yes,
not quite dark brown, but it's like,
definitely not blonde. Like, yeah,
yeah,
there's
it's like the
something
medium
specific.
colored hair. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a very unrecognizable face.
I will say, so I thought it was a cute movie. I really liked it. I don't think it, like, I remember watching the trailer and being like, that looks terrible. It wasn't terrible until the end. My sister and I both said that we lost interest in the last 5 minutes of it, where we were like, I'm kind of out.
Oh, it was too
And
long
so
then.
that's disappointing, where you're like, this is, and it got too cheesy. Like, for a
Yeah.
movie that seemed to have a lot of like grounded state, and like, there were obviously weird like pratfalls and things, and Sydney
Hmm.
Sweeney doing things and being like, I'm so awkward. And you're like, you're Sydney fucking Sweeney. Don't
You're not
pretend that you're
that
not
awkward.
gorgeous and women and like men wouldn't chew off their right arm to be with you.
Yeah.
But she, you know, it's cute. It's a remake of Much Ado About Nothing, which is one of my favorite William Shakespeare plays. And I've always been a big fan of those types of remakes. I would say that like sometimes the the way they tried to bring in Shakespeare was very clunky.
So
Where
you're
all
saying
this,
if this is a Shakespeare retelling, they'll be playing it at my high school soon.
yes, I'm sure they will, except
Okay.
there's too much boobs and like quite a bit of
They don't care.
okay, fair enough. Um but like there are some weird moments in it. It wasn't like I wouldn't say it's a terrible movie, but I wouldn't say it's like so amazing. I would say it's just a fine rom-com.
Hmm. So
And
when they were marketing for this movie, and I think I might have texted you about this, I could not get over the two of them together in the clips and in the photos and everything because I felt like she looked so much younger than him
okay, that
that it
is the
was
one thing.
distracting to
It's
me.
so distracting to watch how young she looks. And my sister and I commented on it throughout the entire film, where we're like,
Yeah.
she is so young. He's 35 and she's like 26. So it's only
And here's the
9
thing,
years, but like,
he's not too old to be in a rom-com. Like he looks amazing. I'm not saying like he looks like an old grandpa. That's not what I'm saying.
no, no,
But
no. But they
there
look,
looks like a visible age difference between them. And I think it's just because she looks young for her age.
mhm. And he looks 35. And that's
Yeah.
like the only uncomfortable thing about it. They do make a joke about it where he says, like,
Oh,
I
they
look
even pointed out.
29. And everyone is like, so
No.
no, it's very weird. And funny enough, her ex in the movie is played by our favorite teenager from Never Have I Ever, Paxton Hall
Are
Yoshida.
you kidding me? Why is he in everything?
And he's 32, and he actually looks like somewhat appropriate for her age. But they're like, they grew up together. And I'm like, kind of, but like he could have babysat her at some point. There's
Oh
still
no.
a significant age gap. Like it's not nothing.
Yeah.
So that is the one weird thing where it's like, why do people keep acting like oh, Sydney Sweeney's so gorgeous. She could be with adult men. And it's like, let's not do those types of age gaps. It's
Here's my thing. There's probably a lot of 35-year-old women that could have played opposite Glenn Powell.
Well, dude, he has the best chemistry with the woman that he was in Set It Up with in
Oh
Zoe
yeah.
Deutsch. Like Zoe Deutsch and him have the best
Yeah.
chemistry. And they even in that movie there were jokes about how she's like younger than him and
Right.
she's 29. So like there's already that joke in Set It Up where she's like, "Oh, if I was 28 and I was still in this job, I'd kill myself." And he's like, "I am 28." And she was like, "Oh, that's bad for you." And it's like, yeah, there is already jokes about how their significant age gap. And she's 3 years older than Sydney Sweeney. So like, why do that? She has great
Yeah.
chemistry with him. She's almost 30. Just put her in the movie. And
Right.
like, yeah, so
It's also going back to what we talked about previously that like Sydney Sweeney is having a moment where she
mhm.
needs to be in everything. We need to have her in this
Yes.
terrible not Marvel movie. We need to have her.
Oh my God. It's not a Marvel movie.
That's what I said. This terrible
Yeah,
not
not
Marvel
Marvel.
movie.
Okay, yeah.
She needs to be in that. She needs to be in Euphoria. She needs to be in all the things. She needs to be in The White Lotus. Like she's got to be in all of it because we need Sydney Sweeney. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I
I
don't
think
know.
that Glenn Powell strikes me as someone though that has chemistry with everyone. Like everybody was talking about like how much chemistry him and Sydney Sweeney had to the point where they're like they're in a relationship and she's like I'm engaged. Like
Yeah.
we're not in a relationship. And it's like this is their job. They're good at their job where they can
Right.
act. And I just kind of get the feeling that Glenn Powell is someone who is like Jeff off of Community, where he's like, I have chemistry with everyone. It's
Yes.
like, yeah, I think you likely do, Glenn Powell, because you
Exactly.
are very handsome
Amazing.
and
Yes.
seem kind of fun and nice. So,
Although he recently broke up with his long-term girlfriend, so
yeah.
because he's having his moment. So yeah,
Hmm.
I think Sydney Sweeney, they're putting her in everything. I
Yeah.
even terrible Madam Web movies. And again, I just go back to like that Madam Web movie. Obviously, I haven't seen it yet. I kind of want to because I've heard enough jokes about it. But
Hmm.
like that's way too much beige acting to have her and Dakota Johnson in the same film. Like
I mean, I could just watch the Dakota Johnson press tour stuff. It's plenty for me. It's very funny.
I don't know. I've seen different clips or heard people's like jokes about how bad the
Hmm.
writing is. And apparently, like Dakota Johnson at one point is supposed to be kind of anti-child. And someone like a child gives her a little drawing and she goes, "What am I supposed to do with this? I can't even fold it." And it's like, it's a piece of paper. What are you talking about? Like,
Why can't you hold it?
why can't you fold it? What's going on?
What's wrong with her?
I can't even
I
fold
always find that
it.
so weird when people are like, I don't like children, and they act like they can't interact with them. And it's like, they're still a person. Like you can interact with an adult.
You
Also,
could,
like
yeah, it's just a
they act like
tiny
they're
human.
an alien being, and it's like, No, still human.
I Here's the thing. Sometimes my nephews will be like, Aunt Hannah, will you play Legos with me? And I'm like, probably not. And
Right,
that's okay. Like, you can be uninterested in what they're doing. You could just tell them no. Like,
right.
but I can't even fold this piece of paper. What are you talking
Like,
about, Dakota
what do you
Johnson? Like,
mean? Why can't you
throw it out. It's okay.
just take it, say thank you, and then get rid of it later?
Yeah, so that's funny. I don't understand. And she thinks she's in a Marvel movie, so it's totally fine.
Oh my.
Uh
When will she realize?
I don't know, so much base acting. But yeah, so I watched that and I can save some other things for next week because you and
Okay.
I keep recording, or not next week, in 2 weeks, but you and I
Mhm.
keep recording very late in the evening. So
We have
I
bedtimes.
we have bedtime. So Laura has to edit this podcast tonight. It may be coming out late, everyone. If we're hearing from us in the future and it's like 10 a.m.
If
and you're
this is
like,
Thursday, you know.
oops. We warned you. I tweeted about it. I don't know
I
what else
had
to
a
tell you.
very like specific to me emergency.
Laura was texting me random. Laura originally was texting me yesterday, and then this morning I get a text or an Instagram message saying my SIM card is no longer working. I cannot text, and I was like, "Well, she's having a moment."
Yeah. So like my milking machine for my goats blew up. Like the motor in it blew up. So now I'm milking goats by hand, which takes a lot longer than
Forever.
using a machine,
Yeah.
which is I know you're all shocked, listeners, that I cannot do this as quickly as a machine. But so that was not great. And then my phone stopped working. So I can only just send messages via Wi-Fi, which stinks. Hopefully, I don't need to actually make a call or anything.
Let's hope not. But so yeah, if this is from Thursday, we're sorry, guys.
Yep,
We are a
sorry. You can
two-person
you can blame the goats.
I do. No.
We all should.
All right. So should we dive into the plot?
Let's do it.
So we left Samira when she was passed out and she's likely dying. And she wakes up strapped to a bed. And she notes that she's suddenly like able to breathe, so she is in an enclosed area. I will note that I had a typo and I said she wakes up strapped to a bread. Don't know how that happened. But
was it rye? That was the daddest of dad jokes.
Yes, it was. And then there is a boy there with a Vlees child. The Vlees child is named Ed Lashul or Ed.
Ed.
Thank you for doing that, Bryan.
Yeah, that'd be so much to say.
Ed Lashul. Sabira is being threatened by the boy, and she's being like threatening back to him. And so they're just kind of threatening each other. He doesn't really care that she's threatening him. And we do find out his name is Cal. She then meets an older man named Rain. We discover that he was likely staffed to one of the divine masters in later chapters. He says that she must meet the oracle. And that is Maya, who immediately walks in. I love this because he's like, you must meet the oracle. And then Maya is like, I am here.
And she appears.
She's a black woman who has like twists in her hair, and Sabira is floored that she has hair on her scalp. Sabira asks why they are referring to Cal since he should be nameless, and they inform.
She's like really rude about Cal, though. Let's be honest. Like anytime she's around Cal, she's like, "You little twerp! How dare you!"
She is any person who says they don't really like children.
She means it.
So they inform Sabira that the theocracy, what they call the unity, lost the battle and they left. She asks if Dagira is still alive. We find out she is. And then they point out her name is a weapon. I liked this part where they're like, what's your name? She's like, Sabira. And they're like, oh, even your name is a weapon.
Which you had pointed out previously that they're all named after weapons. So this all ties in.
All tracks. It's almost like I read a little bit ahead.
It's almost like you were clairvoyant.
Or I knew. She points out some bioluminescent tattoos on Maya, who says she got it since she became a woman. It's a family trait. And Maya is interested in learning more about Sabira and indicates she wants to teach her things. Cal notes that the gods don't see them when she tries to tell him that Trickster found him. I love that part where he's like, the gods don't see anyone.
She's like, we see each other. The gods don't see us.
Yeah. And then I love this because they just like strap Sabira to a wheelchair and they're like, let's just cart you around for a little bit and discuss things.
I don't know that I like all the strapping down. It makes me feel uncomfortable, like deeply, but I did appreciate that it was like something where it was like almost like a magical kind of tether type thing where it was like not something that she could just slip out of. She's like trying to fight against him and no results.
It's not gonna work. She meets Gabriel, a man who also feels otherworldly to Sabira, and then they're taking her to see the stars, and Dagira, who needs longer to recoup. She starts to see Ed as more like having more humanistic attributes than as the foul being she thought, and she meets their pet Ashiel, which was very cute, and she was floored by the fact that the Ashiel also had a name, and they're like, man, you guys are so weird about names. There's also a pregnant woman named Dawn and Derev, a male Augie. She also meets Zante and Karaz. They said that the only person left to meet is Adept Hanada, Orion Hanada. There's a lot of conflicting thought on Sabira in here. There's a lot of back and forth.
Well, she's having trouble because like even like when you're mentioning these new characters, like the way that Sabira addresses them, she's like, that hen over there, like she still is like thinking of them within her own world viewpoint, the way that she's been raised and taught.
And so she sorry, so she is having these moments where they're like walking around the Vlees city. Maya starts talking about the synchronicity of like hearing songs that the Vlees have and the way they're just kind of moving with their world. Uh, and she tells her there's nothing like it. And the Vlees have like this beautiful song. And Maya points out that names are usually common to other people, not in Sabira's theocracy. And Sabira is strangely moved by all this. They do go to a farmer's market during this time, and the Vlees complain about the fact that the Unity brought the plague. So we know that it's been a couple weeks that this has been going on, that the plague is now under full force that they had planned for in the last novella. And they blame Sabira and kind of want them to hand over Sabira and Derev.
Well, I mean, she visibly looks different. Like she looks like she's part of the theocracy. And so they're like, hello, you're walking around with a traitor. That's wonderful.
And then Derev also blames Sabira, and she's like, untie me and say that to my face, pretty much.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much what it is, where they're like accusing her, and she's like, you're right, I did do it, and we'll come back for more.
We'll get you. And so she does get to go visit Dagira during this time. It's very much like, here's what you missed on Fleas, where she's telling her what's going on. That's not the name of the planet. I just put it because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
She also meets a Kvazel who is a hologram, who is Orion Hanada. And
this is cool, actually. I really appreciated this.
I also really like it because she's like, to have a hologram goes against the divine will. And I was like,
blasphemy.
Yeah. And Orion's like, yeah, I'm an adept from an academy. He's the science/tech founder and the ship captain. He states that he was able to travel through the shattered gates of heaven. Dun dun dun.
So then she's like, wait a minute. You're a blasphemer.
Yeah, you're a blasphemer. How did you do this? Maya walks in and is kind of annoyed with Orion and how he does his own thing. They say that there's the Vlees government liaison there demanding that Spear and Dagira get handed over. And Maya is kind of like their argument in the embassy, because they're on like hallowed ground. They gave the Vlees some weapons or promised them weapons to make sure that they had this embassy established. And they're like, we said any human is a POW pretty much. You can't just take them. We have an agreement. Any slave of the Unity falls under their purview. And Sabira during this time does get a little bit worried. Like she doesn't want Dagira to be handed over. And they are like talking to the Vlees, saying that they want to teach her how to be emancipated. And they will prepare to leave the embassy soon, but she has to go through this process of liberation first. They say this after the Vlees leave, that she has to go through this liberation. That night, Spear hears Rain. They talk about their experiences with not knowing it, growing up in the labyrinths with Rain. And she asks Orion about the gods. And they're like, don't worry, you will get your answers soon. They also give a background on how they came to be on the planet, traveling with masters until overtaken by the Vlees, who ended up helping them. This is for most of the Kvazel, who, not some of the other people, but some of the ones who had gotten there, who are Augies or all those people.
Right.
And they kind of ask, like, do you actually know anything about this world, really? And she's kind of like, I don't know. Like, it's very unlearning for Sabira.
Well, it is very much like an unlearning situation, because the narrative that she's been fed is completely wrong, and she's starting to kind of like see the pieces of this come together. We know she's been like given kind of breadcrumbs of doubt, but now it's all starting to click.
Coming together. They have a ceremony with Sabira where she drinks from this drink called Eon. It's kind of like a psychedelic, and it's supposed to take her on the spiritual journey to learn about the world. They note that they're also purging poison from her that was given by the Unity to make her more pliant. It's a very painful experience.
Terrible that they were doing that, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Not only were they just like raising people under a certain fake history, but they were also like manipulating them with like drugs so that they could not react a certain way.
She does have a vision during this time. She sees Zaisha, like the boy's name she met. It leads her through the different areas of the dead. She sees the beings that she killed and she weaves for them. And then she sees a portal and she's kind of scared to go through and is unable to go through. When she wakes up, Maya states that many have had a similar experience. Some are able to go through, some are not, but it's all kind of loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
And she notes that they're rushing Sabira's experience due to the time limit they have on this world, and they need 3 days. And Sabira is like, hey, you guys purged my poison and you put me on the spiritual journey. I am going to tell you everything. And she's like, we do not have 3 days. Like the plague is coming. And she's like, the Warseers are definitely going to come back for conquest purposes. She's trying to get them to leave. They say it's now time to untie her from her bonds because she obviously trusts them. And she starts having weird, warped thoughts during this
Yeah,
time
I was
where
gonna
you
say
can
I
see
wouldn't say
like,
that she's 100%
no,
like on board with them though, because she's having like trickster
trickster
thoughts.
thoughts where they're like, get them. And she's like, I won't. They're my friends.
Mhm.
Kind of like the devil on her shoulder type thing. And they reveal part of them don't trust her due to her former master because she's marked with her family glyphs and who they
Yes.
serve. Um, and she may be like someone who can overthink and someone who can't be trusted. And they know she has high ranks in her bloodline, and she reveals who her grandfather was and who her mother is. And she
Grandmother
says,
Spear. Which I don't know why whenever I say grandfather Spear, I always think of like Pocahontas. Grandmother Willow.
yes, grandmother Willow's BFF, grandfather Spear. Um, and she's kind of like, well, you guys have to trust me about this 3 day thing because I'm so high up that like they did trust me. I'm not someone who's
Yeah.
just low on the totem
She's
pole.
got intel.
Hmm. And then they say that there is word that locals are here to ask for Sabira. And there's kind of like a mob outside trying to get to her. She tries to leave a few times to get to them to like kind of be like, I should sacrifice myself. But Cal actually is the one who holds her back. He thinks she deserves a chance, and this is coming from fear. They get the police to agree to give them 3 days, and then they will leave, or they will they kind of threaten the police a little bit where they're
Yeah.
like, well, we
I
have these
not
dangerous
kind of. I
weapons.
I think they
Yeah.
do.
They're like, well, we have these dangerous weapons, and if you keep trying to mess with us, your ass is grass pretty much.
Yeah.
And that night, she takes the Eon again. She sees a world with blue skies. There are ancient machines there that are rusting, and she starts to spout brown liquid from her breast, and it is Eon, and it rushes everywhere and feeds the wasteland. She asks the world to see them all, and then she sees the free and the pyramids and rubble and a shattering of dome palaces of the divine master. It's just like the gates of heaven. The next day, she asks about the world, and Maya reveals that she is from the blue-skied planet Terria, or Earth. And in fact, all of
Tara.
Terra, all of the people technically come from there. All humans, including Sabira and her people, were originally
Mhm.
from Terra. And centuries before, human people were taken from Terra on ships of the Divine Masters people after they left through that seemingly, what I'm guessing is a wormhole, but through those gates.
Yeah.
It was destroyed and they disappeared for centuries. Maya and Gabriel and Orion found a way to travel through it, and they came to the other side, found the labyrinths and the subjugation of human people.
Which is
Uh,
at this reveal, I was like, ooh, yeah. Because I don't know that I expected something like this to
yeah,
have been the setup, where it's like,
I
oh,
don't think I
these
was
are actually
expecting it either.
descendants from Earth that left a long time ago. And it makes me wonder, like, okay, are we going to be getting into like some reasons as to why they all left in the
Did,
next book?
did you think it was real? Because Sabira is immediately like, this is absolute gobshit.
Well, I mean, it would seem like that, I guess.
So
Honestly, like if like I woke up and I had been captured and people were like, drink this, and then they were like, actually, you are descended from someone from thousands of years ago that
you
came
would
through this
become
wormhole.
someone who was like, how could we descend from apes when we're people?
Yeah. I'm thinking like even though like different than that, where it's just like, wait a minute. I think I have some questions.
Right. No,
So I can't totally blame her for being like, no.
fair enough. But she does note that some of the story does seem laced with the truth. They say that a
Mhm.
Valise hero felt like the travel through the gates was dangerous and shattered them when the monarchy came. And she's like, that sounds a lot like the trickster. I don't know. This seems
Right.
weird. She talks to Torque, who's another character who reveals she can see what others' visions are. And she says she doesn't know what to believe, but it seems like part of it is true. Then Dagira wakes up. She tries to talk to Dagira and convince Dagira of the error of their ways. And Dagira's like,
Which is
get out.
fruitless.
And it's like, honey, she has not been purged of her poison yet. Um, And
Which
then
I don't know why they didn't try harder to like get Daguerre on board. Like Daguerre was clearly the one who was going to be less cooperative.
I know. Okay, but Sabir has a moment talking with others where she discovers how this experience makes her want to choose. She's like, I just know that I want to choose my life. I don't want to have it chosen for me.
Right.
She partakes of the last night of the Eon. During her vision, they are suddenly attacked by the Unity. I had a moment where I was like, is this really happening? I do not
Oh,
know.
you
And
thought it was maybe like a
yeah, I
vision.
was just like, I don't know
Ah,
what's happening because she just taken the
fair.
Eon, and then it's like, "Whoa," and it was like, oh, da, da, da. And then
Hmm.
it is not a vision. They are being attacked by the
Yes.
Unity, and her grandfather is alive and there to take her home. And that is the end
Don't
of.
worry, child. I'm here
I'm
for
here.
you. It is me, Grandfather Spear.
And so then in the next book, it's a lot of like Grandfather Spears talking to her. He's like, "Well, we don't think we can trust you anymore because you seem untrustworthy. You're up and
Yeah.
walking around. We do not know what to do with you." Um, and she is kind of trying to prove to him, like, "I'm so sorry. I went down this path. I don't know what I was thinking. Of course, I want to like pretty much walk in the light, for lack of a better term."
Yeah,
And
well, it's one of those situations where she thought she had been enlightened and then she gets scared and she's like,
mhm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do any of it. I'm trying to be good.
Yeah, and she does also kind of want to die during this, where she's like, it would be easier for me to just not be here. I don't know what to do.
Which is very realistic, honestly, for
Yeah.
someone in this situation.
And they kind of talk about what they need her to do to prove herself, which is also not the
Hmm.
greatest thing.
Yeah.
And the person who Grandfather Spear attends wants her to kill the people who she was with. And so she gets brought into this big, huge ceremony to kill them. Uh, and it feels like she might do that.
Hmm.
And she says, my name is Sabira, and I forget exactly what my name is Sabira, and I'm not your property. And she
Hmm.
stabs the guy through the head. Um, and then everything goes to hell in a handbasket.
It becomes chaos quickly.
Yes. Um, so everyone is like kind of fighting. Everything gets kind of torn up. During this time, Maya is killed, which was really
I
sad.
know. I was so sad about this because
Um,
I was like, yay, this is a super interesting character. Can't wait to learn more. Boom, dead. Dang it.
Oh, I did forget. Before she goes into that ceremony, she does get visited by Orion, who's like, "Look, I'm
Hmm.
here to help you. It all is real. You have to stop believing in this stuff. You have to stop believing what people tell you, but also believe me. And I'm taking care of it." And we find out that the rhinos from the previous book, because they're like kind of
The Grack.
the Grack, yeah, because they're like medically engineered or
Hmm.
biomedically engineered, Orion kind of like uh I'm trying to think of the right word, but he starts to take control over them and like
Yeah.
starts a stampede with
You
them.
can manipulate them basically.
Yeah. And so they all start fighting. Um, Grandfather Spear almost gets killed. Sabira almost kind of does it herself. And then she decides that she still gets to choose and she's not going to live her life like that. So
Mhm.
she decides not to kill him. Some of the party does want revenge. She like goes to save them. They want revenge because he is the one who caused Maya's
Mhm.
death. And she's kind of like, nope, that is my grandfather. I'm telling you, no, that's my decision. We're not doing this. She also has a run-in with Dagira during this time where Dagira is like, hey, I knew you probably weren't fully changed because you seemed wildly not yourself the last time I spoke to you. So I didn't see it coming, and or I saw this coming, and she kind of tries to get Dagira to come with them and run away with all of them. And
Daguerre is
Dagira,
still not on board.
she says, I would rather be by myself in space and runs and
Which
escapes.
is really
So
sad because like throughout all of this, like Sabira is having like a lot of thoughts of like, oh, maybe we could like be in a relationship and be
mhm,
happy together. And that makes me so sad
I
that
know.
Daguerre is just like, forget you. Like you're the worst. I would rather be alone. And oh,
I know.
heartbreaking.
And so they do get away on a ship that Orion brings in. All of them kind of like Ed is with them still, Cal is with them. and they're all kind of regrouping after losing Maya because she was a really important person to them all. And during this time, there's kind of a discussion of like where they need to go next, and if they want to try to go through the Shattered Gates again to get to the other side and see what's going on over there. And they decide to take that path, and they want to drop Ed off during this. I felt really sad for Ed. I was like, what are you doing? Why would you leave him? And Ed was like, please don't leave me. I'm a child who like chose to be in this group. Like you are my found family.
You're not old enough, Ed. Sorry.
And
stay out there on that thing over there.
Sabira kind of stands up for him, and she's like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, he needs to come with us, and they all decide to let him come. And then we have a moment where Sabira is like, Orion, what do you look like?
Nobody's questioned it up until now.
Yeah. And he's like, well, I'll show you. And so she goes into the ship, and he's like, it's kind of like a body suspended in this like almost goo-like substance that like helps run out of him, and he's like controlling the entire ship and running these holograms, and he just seems like a being who's on a different level and working on these other different level functions.
You know what it almost made me think of was when we're thinking of like characters from the Poppy War, how there was the one that was like in the water, that could control water and stuff like that. I don't know why it made me think of that.
Oh wow. And so
I also thought, oh wow, because the way that my brain connected those things that are very different, but also like kind of like can fit into this container type situation and also have power, you know, I don't know why. I kind of thought of that.
There was also a moment where a couple of them do lose limbs, and Orion is able to like use the substance to rebuild it back, and it's a substance that he's kind of suspended in. And Dagira has a moment where she's like going back and forth on if she wants to keep her scars and if they are a part of her, or if she is okay that she is like herself besides them. And I like that kind of dialogue because I think it shows that like it's not just an either or, that sometimes, you know, what happens to us and our scars are part of us, and there's nothing wrong with wanting those.
Right.
You know, that's a lot of discussions on inclusivity about like, hey, I am still wholly myself, even if you do not see that. So I did like that thought process. And then they say that it's time to go home, to go through the Shattered Gates and see what's on the other side. What a good book. This is so
I know,
good.
this one was great.
I had the best time. I love sci-fi. This was just lighthearted.
This is my
dark.
specific brand of sci-fi.
Yeah, it is your specific brand of sci-fi. I will admit that usually it's not my specific brand, but I did very, very much enjoy it. I like this type of sci-fi. It was a lot of action.
Yeah.
The last book, I was like, there was so much action going on. What happened?
It's kind of nonstop in the fourth part.
Which is why it was a pretty short synopsis from Hannah. Because I was like, I don't know. There were battles.
Sure.
But overall, Bryan did a great job. I think the themes are amazing. The world building is amazing. It's super fascinating to see.
Bryan gets into a lot of that in our interview, and I would highly recommend, if you haven't read the book but are interested, or maybe you have read the book and you want to know more, that you check out the episode that we have with Bryan, because it's really interesting to hear about a lot of the inspiration and different themes that Bryan took all the time to put together these things in Before the Shattered Gates.
Definitely
super thoughtful.
Listen next week. We're so excited to have Bryan on the podcast. We've had every Indiemission author on before, and so
we've been so lucky to be able to do that.
I know it's been an amazing time, so we really appreciate this. We appreciate all of Bryan's hard work on this novel. It was such a great time. I've appreciated it so much, and I loved learning more about it. So please make sure you're tuning in. That's what Indiemission is all about, is highlighting spectacular authors. And thank you to everyone, as always, for participating. So, yeah.
And be sure to follow us.
Yes. Please make sure that you're rating, reviewing, and subscribing. It's a great way to get our show out there. Throw us a 5 stars on Spotify. Throw us a 5-star on Apple Podcasts if that is how you listen, or even if that's not how you listen and you can still do so.
And there's this neat little thing now on Spotify where you can like comment on the episode. I would love it if somebody leave a fun comment like, hey, Delicious in Dungeon is actually a really cool show.
Please post that just for Laura.
Yeah, anyone post that.
And then you can follow us on many of the social platforms at OWWR Pod. We are, pretty active there right now. I have been getting ready to host my Mega May, and so I've been doing some posts over on Twitter. Mega May is where we focus on 1 to 4 500+ page books during the month of May. So make sure you're gearing up for that because we have a lot of fantasy readers out there, and so there's
a
lots
lot
of books that qualify.
I was going to say there's a lot of books that are applicable in the
So make
fantasy
sure that
genre.
you're following us, and then also make sure that you're checking out owwrpod.com. That is our website. We have a blog over there, and we just launched, and hopefully we'll have some posts very soon. We just launched an author interest form for any author who would like to be featured on our blog at ourpod.com. Please make sure that you're filling out the form. It is located under the contact us on our website. It's just a form to fill out to post your interest to be on our blog, specifically on ourpod.com, and give it a review, an author interview with one of us,
or both.
Or both of us.
Depending on how our schedules work out.
Yes. And the details of how to submit and what that would look like are all on the form. So please make sure you're reviewing that because it goes over it in a lot more accurate detail than what we're saying off the cuff.
Yes.
So please make sure that you're doing all that. And if you so choose, also you can join us over at Patreon. We have a Patreon. Our Patreon. We have a $1 to $10 different tiers. Each one has different things that are available to you.
We would love the support.
We would love the support. Every tier gets a brand new bookmark for each of the seasons. We are going through the backlog, so season 2 is actually getting posted April 1st. A brand new bookmark just for you for blazing through the Poppy War. So make sure you guys are doing that, and then join us next week as we interview Bryan S. Glosemeyer and his book Before the Shattered Gates of Heaven. Bye.
Bye.